Shalom, shalom, shalom. Yisrael Yael, Yehonathan, we with you here once again. Humbly sold what they call the 26th of September 2021. Mali Music Conqueror. And that's what we are. You know, we have gone now from all what they call the spring feast. And now this is the final of what they call the fall feast. And we are, if you've gone through all this, all the spiritual warfare going on, you are a conqueror, because this is what the last great day of this festival is, Chag Sukkot. Today's topic, the secrets of Chag Sukkot. And Chag, remember we talked about this, is like a circle and it's like a pattern. And what we are learning here, that Yahweh wants us to know about him. He wants to learn of him, and there's patterns to his revelation. And this one is the most intimate of all of the Moedim, because this one is intimacy. This one has marriage ramifications, and then it has end time prophecy to it, with a summation of all things. Yehonathan, we here on the famous 1590 WFBR. Now we and what about this last 8th day, this last great day? Now the standard scripture to go to is Leviticus. Let's go there. Leviticus 23 and verses 34 through 36. Leviticus 23, 34, 36. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of this 7th month will be the feast of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. On the first day there will be a Kodesh convocation. You will do no customary work on it. On the 7 days you will offer an offering made by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day you will have a Kodesh convocation, and you will offer an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It's a sacred assembly. You will do no customary work on it. He keeps emphasizing no work, and also emphasizes about this fire. Matter of fact, you know how I am. When I keep seeing patterns, I have to look at it more deeply. 53 times Yahweh uses this phrase, made by fire. Why is it? We know you have to sacrifice, and it has to be, it's fire, but why does he have to say it? It must be for a reason. And we talked about, I even did a live broadcast on Facebook where talk about this word fire and the word for wife, and they are right next to each other. Fire is Ishah and wife is Isha. So what Yahweh is trying, and we just so numb to hearing, but he's letting us know this is passion and emotion, relationship stuff. When we're doing these sacrifices, this is about relationship. And I've been talking about this for years. This is a passionate relationship. Yahweh is trying to reconcile us back to him through this fire, which is akin to you having your wife. Now, obviously, we know this is because this is a deep thing here. Adam was not deceived. He went on, and he voluntarily went on with his wife, trying to think he can gain her back. But Yahweh said you cannot get her back. Only I can do that. So this is the legal portion of the covenant. This is not the grace portion, but by fire is the legal portion of it. And Yahweh is intimate and passionate about us like a husband and a wife. This is why he keeps talking about 53 times made by fire, Isha, where the word for wife is Isha, the very next word, if you look at it in the concordance. Now, Hasukot, this is a temporary dwelling. What's up with that? Now, Abram's father is TORAH. TORAH's name means wanderer. That's his name. In the genetics of Abram is to be a wanderer. In Genesis 14:13, we get the first mention of the word Hebrew, which we call Hebrew. And the word Hebrew means to cross over. And Yahweh told Abram that he is to cross over. He is the first identified Hebrew, Iberit, to cross over from his previous world, his previous life, a static, structured, established life, and go in faith over to a new world where he is going to be a wanderer. He is Toshab. He says, he said his out of his own mouth that he's Toshab. He's a temporary larger, an alien, a sojourner. So we have Abram, who comes from a father who is a wanderer. Abram is identified as a Ibarit who crosses over, and he self-identified himself as Toshab, a sojourner, temporary. So what we have here in succote, we're really just marking time. If you was ever in the military, you know when they say mark time march, you go through the motions of marching, but you stay in place. You're marching in place. You don't move forward, you don't move backwards, you don't move sideways, you don't move in circles, you stay in place. We are marking time right now, and you're supposed to be marking a righteous time a righteous pattern of time based on the Moedim, the appointed times. We are marking time right now in this temporary dwelling. Let's go to stay in Leviticus 23. We're here already. Let's just stay right here and go to verses 42 and 43. You will dwell in booths, because 7 days all who are native Israelite will live in booths, that your generations may know that I made the Eladot, the children of Israel, live in succote, when I brought them out of the Eretz of Mizraim. I am Yahweh Ha Elohim. Now, so we see right here that he is saying that he wants us to, the very idea of us having to live in Sukkot is saying something deeper than just living with Yahweh. If you go to look at Leviticus, as a matter of fact, let's go up to verse 40. Let's go back up two verses. And you will take yourselves on the first day the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you will rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. The very idea that he wants us to go out, and this is an agrarian, a farming type life, which the world is going to be reduced to back in the last days of Revelations when these earthquakes hit. You're going to be reduced to getting rid of all this technology and going back to a farmer type life. The very idea that we have to gather these items speaks against city living. It speaks against permanent dwellings, putting your roots and stocking it in the earth. In Revelations, I told you the number how many times, just in Revelations alone, judgment is coming to those who live on the earth. They're not sojourners, they're not travelers, they're not aliens. They had their stocks rooted in the earth. And this is the ones who's going to be judged in the last days. Are you amongst those who have your heart, mind, and soul stuck into this earth, living your best life on this earth? Revelation tells us those who love this earth, those who live on the earth, will be judged. Get a clue, as he's teaching us here, back in with these boring books that you don't like to read, such as Leviticus, Vayikra. I know last year I did a broadcast from my sukkah in a tent in my backyard. Didn't do that this year, and told y'all for Ak Rod. I had a great time with him and Ak Brian. Yesterday we did a sukkah out in his yard, and it was beautiful. We rejoiced and had service and dined. It was a beautiful thing. Told y'all for those men. So, but I had an ohel. An ohel is not a sukkah. An ohel is a tent, and a sukkah is a more temporary than even that, and you have to be able to look up and see the sky and all this kind of stuff. This is an idea Yahweh is preparing us, and I'm going to show you how he's going to even force at the end. Right now you have an option to have a mindset. It's not just about physically living in Sukkot. It's about having a heart and a mind that this is not my permanent home. This is not. I'm not trying to get equity here. I'm not trying to lay down my stakes into this place. Yahweh wants us to have a mindset of that he says he made us dwell in booths. He wants us not to have this mindset of permanent city living. In Genesis 33:17, we see that Yaakov, who's performing as a type of Yahweh Shua, he's a genetic mastermind. And when we first get this term sukkot, comes from him. After he sets up a sukkot, he sets up more permanent tents for he and his family, and then he set up sukkot for his animals. Yahweh Shua is our shepherd. This is what the role Yaakov was playing at that time. And we are his sheep, the sheep of his pasture. He sets up succote for us. What is the history of these succotes? We see it usually, in the first two times they are mentioned, it happened. We do it when we come from danger. Yaakov escaped danger from his brother Esau, and he set up this succote. The first thing we did when we came out of Mizraim was we came out and we went to that same destination. We went to Sukkot, and we set up Sukkots after we left Egypt. That's what's going to happen again in the latter days. You read about it in Revelations, after that sixth seal earthquake, once again, we will be in Sukkot. You better get practice now if you plan on being amongst Yahweh's flock. Get some practice now on Sukkot, because you're going to be forced to do it in those latter days. You're going to be forced to do it. And this is not like, remember in John 14:2, Yahweh sure says, I go to my Father's house and prepare a place for you. In my Father's house are many mansions. We are going to have, he's going to give us what's called shakanim, permanent residence. But right now, we are to prepare for in a temporary residence. Start off humble, and then you become a king or priest. You give everything, and from the first time up bat, hit a grand slam first time bat. What are you going to do after that? You can only go down. You cannot do better than a grand slam on your first pitch and first at bat. Start off humble and build up. What did Yahweh do? He entreated Moshe from a quiet, humble, burning bush. When he came down to us in his power and his radah at Sinai, we couldn't handle it. We were fearful and say, no. Moshe, you talk to us. He let him tell you what to do, and you just tell us. So we came down with his power and might. We were afraid. We were afraid. So listen, be humble and be humble and get out there and Sukkot. Have a mind of temporariness. Be able, like Pastor Williams say, to be able to walk away from anything in 5 minutes. You should be able to just walk away. I don't care if it's even your wife or your own children. Definitely a job. In a matter of 5 minutes, you should be able to have a heart and mind to be able to walk away from it and go ye forth. But being humble and patient. King David is one of the best examples. He was anointed at like the age of 15, but he didn't become king until he was 30. He was for 15 years in limbo as king of Israel. 15 years waiting. So let's move to, now here's the thing, what about today? Now, Sukkot is when Yahweh finally is rest within us. He has always desired to live within his people. Yahweh says his desire is in his people. That's where he gets his desire from. His pleasure is from us. And he has always wanted to do this. This is, at that time, this is an intimate time, intimacy. And on the 8th day is going to be the eternal day. 8th day is not predicated by time. We will be above time. Just like Yahweh, there will be time no more on that 8th day. 1 Corinthians 15. Let's talk about this last enemy being destroyed and then this end of time. 1 Corinthians 15, 20 to 28. Because we've always had questions about how this thing is going to wrap up. And the apostles, many ways and many times, answered this. Let's see what Shaul says here in 1 Corinthians 15, 20 to 28. Answering this very question about how things are going to wrap up. But now, Hamashiach is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Hamashiach all will be made alive, but each one in his own order. Hamashiach, the first fruits, afterwards those who are Hamashiach at his coming. Then comes the end when he delivers the kingdom to Elohim, the Father, and he who puts an end to all rule and all authority and power, because he must reign till he has put all enemies under his feet. Remember, Yahweh came, died, resurrected. He never reigned. Shaul's telling us, well, he's got to reign. He's a king. He's going to have to reign. That is going to be during that 1,000-year period. So the last enemy will be destroyed is death. because he has put all things under his feet. But when he says all things are put under him, it is evident that he who put all things under him is accepted. So Yahweh put all things under Yahweh Shua's feet, but he didn't put himself under Yahweh Shua's feet. And in verse 28, now when all things are made subject to him, then the Son himself will also be subject to him, who put all things under him. Yahweh may be all in all. See how that works out? Everybody in this order come together, and we're all broken apart now. It doesn't matter how much you love, fast, and pray, we cannot all come together. Yahweh split us apart, and only he can bring us back together. And that's going to be done when the last enemy is destroyed, and that is death, Hades, and the grave. Now here's one of the big secrets about this wonderful, intimate time that we are in right now, succote. It is really, if you look at the three major Moedim, they all correspond to the phases of a historical Hebrew wedding. Now, historical Hebrew weddings have the same pattern of the major feast days. The first portion of 3 for the historical Hebrew wedding is called Shidduchin. And Shidduchin correlates to Passover, to Pesach. Because Shidduchin, when we're in the Shidduchin portion of our relationship with Yahweh, this is when the match is made. Remember when Abraham sent Eliezer, his right-hand man, to his father's house to get a bride for Yitzhak. Gifts were given, agreements was made, and a covenant meal was eaten during that time. Now at Pesach, this is the same pattern. We were chosen by Yahweh. We agreed. We put the blood on the lintel. Remember, we put the blood on the lintel, on the post, and then we shared a covenant Pesach meal of lamb. This is the same thing Yahweh Shua did with his apostles at what they call the Last Supper, which was the day before Passover. It couldn't have been on Passover, because that means he would have been eating himself and he would have died a day late. Yahweh Shua died on time and he did not partake of himself. So, but what they call Last Supper was the day before Passover. And then they had the covenant, they had the meal. By the way, Yahudah was already gone by that time. So this is the same thing. This is the Shidduchin portion of our relationship with Yahweh. He chooses us, we accept, and now we go to the next step. The next step of a marriage relationship, talking about traditional Hebrew marriage, is Erusin. And Erusin correlates to Shavuot. See, in Shavuot, and in this Erusin portion of the historic, traditional, ancient Hebrew marriage, there's a public announcement made. A public announcement that's made based on the Shidduchin portion of this marriage. So this is when they make the marriage lawful and binding. There's no consummation now. Ain't no consummation going on. But there's a written agreement and there are witnesses. This correlates to when we had a written agreement with Yahweh at Sinai when the Torah was given to us. Okay, you see how that correlates? You see the connection there? Then this is typically done during the growing season. There's no consummation. That comes at the end, what we call the fall feast, and this is the time right now. The consummation, the physical intimacy part comes at the end, and that will be on the last great day. But at this portion, at Erusin, the growing season, this is what we call the spring feast. This is when most of the marriages happen. And then the Torah is a witness of the marriage agreement. The groom and during this time, the groom and the bride make contractual promises. This is called a ketubah. This is a written legal document. And you look at some of our Jewish brothers even still do it today. They have like a ketubah written before they get married. But our ketubah is the 10 Commandments. Now, what are the promises we made? To be betrothed to Yahweh only by fire. This is an offering made by fire, passion. Acts chapter 2, Shavuot. And this is a passionate intimacy with Yahweh not physical yet, but it is, the heart is already sold out to him. We're already sold out to him. We're not like those who live on the earth. Their stakes in this ground, living their best life for this one, for this life. We are sold to him emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. We are sold out to him. Then the final stage of this marriage process, the traditional ancient Hebrew marriage, is called Nisuin. And this correlates to succote, which we're in right now. So we have already gone through the first two. We've already conquered this. We've gone through the first two sections of our marriage with Yahweh. We are currently in the third stage. And this is the latter days right now. Yes, right, y'all. Yahonathan, we with you here, Yahweh for Christians, on WFUR 1590. Now, so this happens over the summer growing season, okay? As we go through the summer growing season, during that time, which we just passed, we already passed the summer growing season. This is what they call fall or autumn. So, but during the summer growing season that we just passed, this is what should have been happening, all right? During that time, the groom, he's preparing, we know Yahweh's doing his part. He's preparing our succote, which is attached to his father's house. The father's house is a permanent dwelling, but for us, he makes a succote, okay? A temporary dwelling. He's doing it. Remember, he said, go to my father's house to prepare a place for you, all right? So then, but in the meantime, what we are supposed to be doing is preparing our dress, which is the righteousness. We are practicing righteousness. We're doing that. We got people celebrating Moedim on different days. Some people are, we all over the place. Some people wearing sissy, some people don't. Calling different names. We don't even call the Savior's name right. The most accurate name for our groom is Yahushua. Now, so right now we're practicing. We in the mirror with our dress on. We're looking at ourselves, seeing how we look, and then there's still communication going on, though, by the way, during all these months of the summer season with the groom, but not directly. We communicate with him through his best man. And this is what Elisheba did. When Eliezer brought her back for Yitzhak, she was talking to him about him, so she didn't talk directly to him until she met him and they consummated the marriage. But who is the best man today for us? Who are you supposed to get to know your groom through? That's right, Ruach HaKodesh. That's the best man. We're supposed to be in constant communication with Ruach HaKodesh about what Yahushua likes, what he doesn't like. We're supposed to be learning about him through Ruach HaKodesh. In the traditional marriage, the bride learned about the bridegroom through the best man. Elisheba learned about Yitzhak through Eleazar. So right now, today, we're supposed to learn about Yahushua through Ruach HaKodesh. You're supposed to be in touch. You're supposed to be able to discern his voice. You should be able to Shema. Now, and this is deep. Like I said, this is deep. We're talking about some of the secrets of Hag Sukkot and how it correlates. I got another one to give you. There's two major secrets. This first one is that it correlates to marriage. Marriage with the one we say we love. So now we are literally, you know what? This morning, I was looking at my notes, just going through this morning. I thought about this reality show. I don't look at TV like that. Verse, I don't look at any TV. But this, about 15 years ago, this had to be about 15 years ago, just flicking through the channels, this reality show popped up about, how they had the woman and the man meet each other and they choose who they want and all this kind of stuff. But this one was unique, so I paused on it and looked at it. I looked at one episode, never looked at it again, don't even know the name of it. If you gave me $1 billion, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the name of it was because I don't remember. It was like 15 years ago. But why I paused on it, because I liked the way they had the two choose one another. It was in a unique way. This episode, it was the woman supposed to choose one of the three men. Now, how she's supposed to choose the man is not by sight. The way the process goes is you have three candidates for her. All right? She has to choose one of these three candidates who she has never seen, don't know anything about them, maybe their name. She has to choose them by their affects. Like she'd be blindfolded and sent to the house of one of the men, and unblindfolded and see they say his bedroom. You see what kind of things, you see the pictures on the wall, what kind of things he's like. You see, if he has a guitar, he likes to play the guitar. If he has, you get to see, if you see books, you see what kind of books he reads, what he likes. You see his style and taste in furniture. You see his style and taste of clothing, look in his closet. Then you go to the next house and you do the same thing too. You get all three. So you have to make a choice on which man she wants to marry based on just his affects, the things about him. Not him, but the things about him that speaks to him. And I thought that was very interesting because you're not going to go by your eyesight like we like to do. See, when we choose by our eyes, we go astray. That is how the number one means for deception is through the eyesight. And that's what's going to happen. That's what happened in the Garden of Eden. And that's what's going to happen in the last days with the false Messiah. Number one is by eyesight. If we used our eyes to choose Hamashiach, we all would have turned him down. Yahweh Shua. Let me go. Let's prove that. Let's go to Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53. We would not have chosen this man because we all have in our minds how we want somebody. We want him to be tall, bronze, and handsome. We want her to be curvy and cute, and long hair, flowing. We all have our ideas of what we want our mate to look like physically, and then we get our heart broken in 5 months, and we go to the next person. Like changing clothes. But Isaiah 53, 2 and 3, for he will grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of the ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. No beauty that we should desire him. He is not going to titillate us visually by how he looks. We're not going to be drawn to him and say, good, because of the way this man looks. He is despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. This is how unseemingly he looks, that we even hide our eyesight from him. He is despised, and surely he has borne our griefs, we have deemed him stricken. Now, I told you about this where I dropped a deep one on you last week, that even I just recently studying this deeply. We're talking about a man that he is, yes, he's a brother, he's an melanin, but he was albino. We all black and proud want to see a black Messiah. He is so-called, quote-unquote, black, but he's albino. And he limps like Jacob, and he's short, no taller than 5'10", 150 pounds, limping, not attractive. Not attractive. So if you're going to follow this man, you're doing it because of the Ruach HaKodesh guides you and because you love him. You love his affects, what he's about. The things that speaks to him, the things that he speaks to. Not because of the way he looks. And if you look at this, I was talking to my aunt last night, and again, had a beautiful time with Ak Brian and Ak Radah. I call him Radah, Ak Rad. And I posed this question. If we were all single men, and let's say, I don't know who's the hot single man out today. I do not know. I don't follow social media, anything like that, or TV like that. Let's just say Tiger Woods when he was single, okay? So we all three hanging out, going to try and meet girls at the club with young Tiger Woods who's single. And I'm single and the other two men are single, okay? Me and Rod and Brian all single. And Og Joe, he's with us too. Hey, Og Joe. So all three of us hanging out with Tiger Woods young, trying to pick up when all of us are single. Tiger Woods was already worldwide known at that age. He was already worldwide known. He would have no problem walking out of the club with whoever he wanted to walk out with. Me and Joe and Rod and Brian, we had to get in where we fit in. We had to do tricks and mad, whatever, because we just regular Joes, regular whatever, regular men, regular Johnsons, regular people. And we might be the best pick. But Tiger Woods, because he being who he is, he can pick who he wants. So for a person who can do that, it's really, and we can't even read our own hearts, let alone somebody else's heart. How you gonna know if this person really loves you? How you gonna know if this person really is interested in you? How you gonna know if this person really will choose you out of 1,000? Not because you can dunk a basketball, hit a hole in one, do whatever. Do some great feats. You got top 10 hits on the music, or you got a big $26 million contract on a movie, just signed a $500 million contract. I mean, it's hard for somebody like that to find somebody who in her heart would love him. Whereas I'm a broke brother. If I got somebody want me, she must love me. What she will? I ain't got nothing. And Yahweh don't want us to choose him for the goodies. He wants you to choose him. He wants those to love him. And right now you have a choice to love him. Why you're inconvenient. Why you might lose your job for not taking a shot. Why you are peculiar and oddball. You out in your backyard in a tent, blowing shofars and clapping hands and singing songs, looking like an idiot to other people. Why you are going against the flow, going against the stream. You are standing out to other people like a sore thumb. You are part of the problem according to them. You choosing him when it's not convenient. You choosing him when you're not getting no benefit. You broke, poor, trying to get to build the money to get the ends to meet. And you trying to make it. And that's why anybody who followed Yahweh back then, he was homeless during his ministry. After his father died, he was homeless, and he left and he started his ministry. He slept under that almond tree on the Mount of Olives for 3.5 years, praying for us every night, calling us by our names, our given names that he was going to give, that he gave us for the new kingdom. And he was not good looking. He did not look like a king. He did not look like one. He did not look like somebody you would follow after, all limped and bent over, looking like he was stricken. Remember, he said, hey, you're going to say, hey, you want to heal people, why don't you heal yourself? You look like you need to be healed. You trying to heal us? Those who follow Yahweh Shua do so out of love. And you don't choose him out of the goodies. Now, in this comparison of succote with the marriage, we see that the father is one who he announces to his son, okay, go ahead, go get your bride. Everything is ready. The groom does not go on his own. He waits till his father tells him to go get his bride. This is like Yom Teruah. And when he comes, he has to send a proceed before him that announces that he's coming. That's Yom Teruah, which we just went through. So before the bridegroom comes, he has a procession before him that announces his coming. That's Yom Teruah. And this is done traditionally around midnight. And then you have, when he does come, Yom Kippur, because those who are prepared for his coming are happy, and those who are not are sad. This is what Yahweh showed in Matthew 25, 1 through 13, the parable of the virgins. Now, key point here that people miss. These 10 virgins, number one, were not the bride, was not the bride. They didn't go in to marry him. So everybody wants to talk about they want to be the wise virgins. Yes, you do want to be that, but you're not the bride. And we are not the bride. That's going to be a whole nother lesson. We are the guests. We are saved, but you're not the bride. You're not the only 144,000 is going to be the bride. But anyway, additionally to another thing that we missed, that all of these virgins were indeed virgins. So we're not talking about hoes, 5 good girls and 5 bad girls. They all were good girls. All Hebrew Israelite, all doing their job, doing what they're supposed to do, keeping Shabbat, keeping the feast days, and doing all that, eating kosher. All of them. Only half made it. Because you know why? The other half still, while they serving Yahweh, still put their stakes in this earth. They still love this life, and they still just can't wait for COVID to be over so they can go ahead and go back to how things were. They're going to go to church or a temple, wherever they go. They're going to pay their tithes, but they still love this world. So, people always like to have debates about what the mark of the beast is. Here's one thing that's not debatable, that everybody, no matter what you believe about the end times mark of the beast, is that the key sign to mark of the beast is being able to buy and sell. Anyone who accepts the mark of the beast is able to buy and sell. That means continue in your life. You can still go and come as you want. You're able to buy and sell. Whatever the mark of the beast is, we ain't going to talk about that today. Whatever it is, if it is accepted, you will continue in your life, buying and selling. So those 5 foolish virgins had to go out to get Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit, to those who were selling it. They had to get more education, more Torah time by those who were teaching it. That's what it was. And to those who buy and sell. That means they had to go out and accept the mark of the beast, live in their life, and then when they come back, knock on the door. What did Yahweh Shua say? Depart from me, I never knew you. I never knew you. I never knew you. So this is what unfortunately, a lot of Hebrews are doing now. They are thinking they're doing all the right things, but their heart does not love Yahweh Shua. Their heart does not love him. And Yahweh wants a cheerful heart that loves him. And we can't, you know, the groom chooses the bride. The bride don't choose the groom. That's not how it goes. The groom chooses the bride. You don't choose him. If you're his chosen, you need to rejoice and be exceedingly glad. What is our job now? Our job today is to be full of Ruach HaKodesh, like the 5 wise virgins. To be full of it. To be ready to enter as his guest. To be ready to enter when he comes. To be ready. To be full of having the Torah in your heart. Like they did. The others had to go out and get some more Torah. Get some more knowledge. Get some more education. They had to go get it. And they got it. They got more and came back. But it was too late. See, not being ready, they had to go and accept the mark of the beast. Now, the thing about these appointed times today, this is like bookends. The first Moed and the last is like bookends. You got Pesach, and they mirror each other. They're the only ones that are alike in this manner. You got Pesach, that's a half a day in the afternoon for the meal. You know, it starts off with that half a day, that meal. And then you have 7 days of unleavened. Whereas Sukkot, you have 7 days of that intimacy time. Right now, we're supposed to be intimate with Yahweh. You should be in your Mikdosh, praising Yahweh. And if you can have a Kodesh gathering with other brothers and sisters, you do it. And you rejoice, and you're sharing your love of Yahweh. You should be sharing about your love. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you making sacrifice? Why are you taking a less paying job? Why are you living where you live? Why are you wearing what you're wearing? Why are you eating what you're eating? Why you have the friends that you have? Why are you married to a person? Why are you doing what you're doing? Share, you know, and share the love of the Messiah. Receive others as they testify. Be intimate with Yahweh. Cry with him. Spend time and praise and rejoice in him during this time. We got 6 days. And then at the end, you have Shemini Atzeret. That's the last great day. That's on that morning. You have Shemini Atzeret, the last great day. And what does the succote represent? We talked about how it parallels to the traditional Hebrew marriage. The succote that we're supposed to be living in during this time is just like the huppah. And you know, the huppah is what the bride and the groom, they get married under. You can't live under that thing. It's just a temporary thing for the marriage process. So we live in a succote just like the Hebrew man and woman are under the huppah. You got the succote and you got the huppah. They are the same thing. You see the correlation there? You see how important this, how emotionally charged this Moed is? This is a special time. This is the most intimate of all the feast days. This one is really special, it's unique. You know, every man has one wife, every wife has one man. And this is talking about intimacy. This is you with him. It ain't no Yahweh and all this other stuff. Is Yahweh Shua. And he is the X-Man. All things go through him. All things go through him. Deuteronomy 16. This all, when I read all these Torah portions, go through all this, is all points to him. If we can't make what we read and study connect to him, it's a waste of time. Because he's the only thing that matters. If you're hanging from the cliff on your ankles, you're not worrying about whether you are proper shaving your head right, eating right, whether you've been wearing your sit seats right, whether you, whatever. You're hanging from your ankles off a cliff. There's only one thing that matters: life and death. That's Yahweh Shua, it's life and death. Nothing else matters. Deuteronomy 16, 13 through 15. You will observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days when you have gathered from your threshing floor and from your winepress. You will rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter, and male servant and your female servant, and the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and all who are within your gates. 7 days you will keep a sacred feast to Yahweh your Elohim, in the place which Yahweh chooses, because Yahweh your Elohim will bless you in all your produce and in all your works in your hands, so that you surely will rejoice. Oh! You are are commanded. He said it in the beginning of this narrative and at the end twice, bookends, rejoice. He didn't say, will you be happy, please? I want you to be happy. No, you are commanded to rejoice. And if you don't rejoice, you're breaking the commandments. He don't want you, I guess I'll go ahead and pay my tithes. I guess I will read my scriptures. I guess I'll pray. You're supposed to do whatever you're supposed to do with Yahweh because you love him. You're not looking at the clock waiting for the Sabbath to be over. You're not rushing and trying to take care of your business. Oh, I got 3 more minutes before the Sabbath start and trying to get things done. Personal stuff. We need to do things for Yahweh because the fruit of what we show is because of the root that's in our heart is rooted in the Yahweh. Whatever we do that people see is not for salvation. What we do that people see, which is the fruit, what people can see, the fruit on the tree, is because in the roots is our heart is with Yahweh. And then more particularly, our heart is with his son, Yahweh Shua, because there's no salvation in Yahweh. Yahweh is for judgment. His son is for grace and salvation. And then so we're commanded in Deuteronomy 31, 10, 11, that every 7 years, which I think, again, that's a whole nother topic, the Jubilees, which I don't have enough knowledge on, but everything happens in the Jubilee cycle. But I think next year will be the cycle where we're supposed to read the entire Torah, the 5 books of Moshe. Now we know that on this, the beautiful thing about this feast day has other little parts to it. Just like Passover Pesach does, this has other things within it. Because you have the water libation ceremony, which is called Nishuk HaMayim. And in John 7, 37, 41, when Yahweh Shua says, I am the water, if you're thirsty, come drink me, you'll never be thirsty again. They were having the water festival during this time. And it's a beautiful thing. If you look at some of the YouTube channels and whatever you can do, your thumb scholars out there like I had to do, and see this is a beautiful festival, the water festival. And then also there's a festival of lights. But Yahweh Shua is saying, this all speaks to me. And in Zechariah 14, 16 to 19, we know that this is an important festival because he says all remaining nations will keep succote. Right now you have an option. In the last days, you will be forced. In Ezekiel 45, 18 to 25, during the millennial kingdom, all will keep the feast. Let's read Acts 15, 12 through 18. Acts 15, 12 through 18. And it reads, Then all the multitude kept silent and listened to Barnabas and Paul, declaring how many miracles and wonders God had worked through them among the Gentiles. And after that they became silent. James answered, saying, Men and brethren, listen to me. Shimon has declared Yahweh at the first visiting the Gentiles, take out of them a people for his name. And when these words of his the words of the prophets agree, just as it is written, after this I will return and will rebuild the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down. I will rebuild its ruins and I will set it up, so that the rest of the mankind may seek Yahweh, even all the Gentiles who are called by my name, says Yahweh who does all these things. So Yahweh knows from eternity all his words. Remember, Yahweh declares in from the beginning. So they agree. So what they're saying here is that this is prophecy happening about all being gathered in together. This was during the Jerusalem Council. We know in Amos 9, 11, and 12, when Yahweh he's going to restore Yisrael, the tabernacle is going to be built. They're saying it right here. It's going to be built again. And during that time, they're going to be forced to keep the tabernacles. Isaiah 4, 2 through 6, in the renewal of Zion, Yah is tabernacles over us. He tabernacles over the remnant. He desires to be amongst us. In the last days, the whole world's going to have to keep tabernacles by force. If they don't, no rain comes on them. In John 8 and 12, Yahweh Shua says, I am the light of the world. They had a lighting ceremony during the tabernacles, and Yahweh Shua says, this speaks to me. So the water speaks to Yahweh Shua. The lighting speaks to Yahweh Shua. Tabernacle speaks to him being Emmanuel. Elohim is with us. He dwells with us. He's not going to dwell with filth and stench. You must clean yourselves up. You must accept him and only him. I got to rush through this because I can't do 2 weeks on this. So Luke 1, 8, and 9, we find a gap. Now, the other secret to Sukkot is that Yahweh Shua was born at this time. Yahweh Shua was born on the first day of Tabernacles. Remember, he is Emmanuel, Elohim with us. in Luke 1, 8, and 9. See, I don't have time to read all these things. But we see that Gabriel approached Zechariah, who was a priest, Yahweh's uncle, and told him about his son being born is going to be Yochanan the Baptist. Okay? Now, I think I was going to have to read this because I want to read, this is important, and I know I'm running out of time, but Luke 1, 8, and 9, because there's some words, I had to do some research on this and get some help because I didn't know enough about this, about how to mark that. I know he was born at this time, but how to really mark it is difficult. Okay? Now, if you read this in Luke 1, 8 and 9, it's going to help set the stage for when John the Baptist was born and tells you when Yahweh was born. So it was that while he was serving as priest before Yahweh in the order of his division. See, so Zechariah was serving Yahweh in the order of his division. That's the key. According to the custom of the priesthood, his lot fell to burn the incense when he went into the temple of Yahweh. Now that's key. You got to look at the Hebrew and see what this order was. The division of his course, because there were so many priests, you had to draw lots, okay, for what duties you were going to get. And whatever duty you got in your career, that'll be the only time you would do it. You only serve from the ages of 25 to 50. So and this was a special lot to do the incense, because the smell is special to Yahweh. I don't have time to go into it, but the sense of smell is the only sense that didn't sin in the Garden of Eden. We sin for all the other four senses, but not smell. Yahweh takes the smell, is special to him. And 41 times he says that, talking about the special sense to his nose. This was separated Aaron from the others who tried to take the chief priest. But anyway, so this is a special, and then during the, and you serve only 1 week during this course. But for the duties of the during the 3 Kodesh times, the meeting times, you serve 2 weeks. So this is important because we're trying to date the time that Yahweh was born. And I'm saying he was born on the first day of succote. Now, if you go to 1 Chronicles 24, 1, 2, 10, and 19, I'm running out of time. I don't think I should, I'm not going to go there. But 1 Chronicles 24, verses 1, 2, 10, and 19, we find that Abijah served on the 8th course. This is when the priest served. So you got 1 week for times 2 years. You get 24 courses. 24 times 2 is 48. On Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot, you get this, that's 51 weeks. So there were 12 months, 30-day months, not like we have it now. So this shows you how it's scheduled when the priests serve is timed. So you can't get the time wrong. It serves to let you know what time it is. Zechariah began his course on the 1st week of June. It was the 8th course. This is all documented. When you talk about the courses of the time for they served, it was the 1st week of June. And he get to serve for 2 weeks because it was Shavuot. If it was just a regular time, if it was a non-appointed time, then he would serve 1 week of burning the incense. But because it was Shavuot, he served 2 weeks. So I had to go online to look this up to help me pin this down. I don't have time to go in detail. In Luke 1, 10, and 11, we find that the whole multitude was there while he was lighting his incense. There's no reason for the whole multitude to be there unless it was an appointed time. If this was what we would call February the 3rd, there would just be a few people there. But because it was a Moedim where people were there, it was packed while he was lighting his incense. Remember, he couldn't even speak because he didn't believe Gabriel, so he wasn't even able to speak. So that means on the 9th course is when he went home to his wife and impregnated her. She hid herself for 5 months. That would bring us to what we would call November. We know in the 6th month is December, what we would call December. That's Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. That's a tradition that's a non-biblical tradition that we have started. It's called the Festival of Lights. Yahweh says, I am the light of the world. So he may have been conceived on that time, but he was not born on that time. If you read Luke 1, 35 and 36, this is when Miriam was visited by Gabriel. And I'm not going to read it because of my time limit, but in Luke 1, 35, 36, that's when Miriam was visited by Gabriel. And then in verse 56, she visits Elizabeth through the birth of Yochanan the Baptist. So she stayed till the end of the birth. She was already 3 months pregnant. Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant, so that gives you 9 months. This means that Yochanan was born on Pesach. And that's beautiful. So is he the true lamb or is he the false lamb? We know that he was not the true lamb. He was the forerunner. So Yochanan was born on Passover. Based on just all, because from reading Luke 1, 8, and 9, you can get all this. And 1 Chronicles 24, 1, 2, 10, and 19. So then, if he's born on Pesach, if you go to Luke 2, 6, and 7, Yahweh was conceived during the Festival of Lights, which is Hanukkah. So he was, the Ruach HaKodesh overshadowed Miriam at that time. He is the light of the world. Now if you look at Luke 2, 8, you find that the shepherds were in the field. There had to be in spring. You don't have sheep out in the wintertime. So Yahweh was born on Sukkot. We know on the 8th day he got circumcised, the last great day. That is, so that we go from that physical covenant, okay? So you have circumcision on the last great day. That is the last great day. The eternal covenant starts at that time. Now, Yosef, we know, was a priest. That's why he had access to the undergarments. Yahweh was wrapped in swaddling clothing. Those come from the undergarments of the priests that were worn out. To use those to burn the wicks of the lamps. So Yosef, Yahweh's, supposed father, was not his father, was also a priest. That's why he had access to these swaddling clothes. They were in the succot. They succotted next to a manger next with animals. Now I believe, I can't prove this, that in that were they next to them were the donkeys that eventually he would ride on. Not the actual donkey, but that donkey was the forerunner. Then her seed, and keep on going down to the seed till the foal, the baby donkey. That's the one that Yahweh was going to ride on 30 years later, going down the line. After she procreate, the next generation of donkeys. That's what I believe. Now, I do want to read this though, because this is important. Because Hosea 12:9. Hosea 12:9, because talking about how right now we love Yahweh, so we do what we do. But there's going to come a time where people are going to be forced. So Hosea 12:9. But I am Yahweh your Elohim. Ever since the land of Egypt, I will again make you live in tents. And as in the days of appointed feast. Yahweh, it's going to come a time during that earthquake, and the world is reduced to living like the farmers again. He's going to make you live in booths. Why don't you do it now when you have a choice? In Psalm 118, 26 through 29, I don't have time. That's Yahweh's birthday song. Read Psalm 118, 26 to 29. In Matthew 1:23, Yahweh is called Emmanuel. He wants to succote with us. He wants to dwell with us. They kept the law, and they were dirt poor. His mother offered 2 pigeons, which is the cheapest thing you can offer at the temple. That's what she offered after the birth of her son, was 2 little pigeons, following the law, the Torah, in Leviticus 12, 6 through 8. Of course, that was done 30 days later. So we find that Yahweh was born during this intimacy time. He wants to be intimate with us. John the Baptist was born on Pesach. Yahweh was born during the first day of Sukkot. He was circumcised on the 8th day, the last great day, and we are to rejoice. He gave this commandment not once, but twice, to rejoice and be exceedingly glad. And why should we rejoice? Because what we have learned is that we don't have to die. We don't have to die for our sins, that we have grace. Because if we go to Yahweh directly with our resumes about how good we are, we're going to fail. We're going to fail. But because of Yahweh, we have grace. We have Tekhanol, which is miracle grace. You've heard me talk about Tekhanol, which is not just regular grace. It's miracle grace. So you should be happy. Now you have a right access boldly to Yahweh and not be ashamed. Your petitions are sure. You have the guarantee because of your Yahweh. What better news is that? That's the Besorah message. There is no better news. There's nothing better your ears can hear than you have right access to the tree of eternal life. That was guarded at the Garden of Eden that Adam and Eve couldn't get back to. Receive Yahweh as the ruddy heifer, the waters. He is Ma'in Kaim, the water of life. Drink of his waters and receive eternal life, flushing out that blood stain of sin. This is rejoice. Be happy. Be joyful. Then you don't have to die. That's great news. Is there anything better There's nothing better. Now next week, we're going to return back to the Torah portions. It's going to be Torah portion number 46. It's been a long time, hasn't it? Been over a month. It's called Iked, if you follow. So you want to do your homework, Deuteronomy 7 and 12 through Deuteronomy 11:25. Deuteronomy 7 and 12 through Deuteronomy 11:25. And it's going to talk about the blessings of obedience to Yahweh. And not to forget him. How can we forget him who we say we love? So, Yehonatan we with here, Yahweh for Christians, on the famous WFBR 1590. Please tell your friends to tune in next week. Shalom Aleichem, peace be on you.